By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Arvika, baby, because we are continuing our journey into the Arvika Festival number 10, and we have reached round number 8. This is the last round in the Swiss, and we're going to look at a match between Johan and Andreas. And Johan is Johan Carlson. He's playing with Twiddle Vault, so probably the best combo deck in the format. And he's taking on Andreas Rosen, and he's on White Weenie. I love it. Just White Weenie. No splash for power, no splash for the black stuff. Just White Weenie. I love it. And just this White Weenie deck alone was why I'm like, okay, I want to see this deck on stream. And I also want to make a video out of it and show it to you now here today. So really excited. Like I said, we are in round number 8. Now, before I start with the deck text, I've got beautiful deck pictures of both of these decks. First, a message from our sponsor, 3for1 Trading. 3for1 Trading is one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. Their online shop has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, also old school Magic players. But 3for1 Trading does more. They're now also buying all Magic the Gathering singles and entire collections, big and small. They're one of the top trading card game traders in Europe, buying way over 1 million Magic cards a year, and they are more than happy to make you an offer for your cards today. So if you have any cards for sale, 3for1 Trading is the place to go. Visit 3for1.gg/selltimmy to get your offer. And we are back and ready to start with the deck decks. I'm going to start with the deck of the player on the left, that is Johan Carlson. Let's take a look at his Twiddle Vault deck. And here we see the deck of Johan. So this is really your Twiddle Vault deck, right? And the deck name is named after the two cards that the deck revolves around. It's a combo deck, and it revolves around Time Vault and Twiddle. Time Vault is the classic artifact. I love the art of Time Vault, by the way. Look at it. Absolutely beautiful. 2 mana to cast. The artifact enters the battlefield tapped, and it doesn't untap during your untap step. And if you want to untap it, you need to do that at the beginning of your turn, and then you skip that turn instead. So you're giving an extra turn to the opponent. Then you can untap the Time Vault, and you can tap the Time Vault to take an extra turn. And of course, you can combine this with Twiddle, because Twiddle is a little blue instant. For 1 blue, lets you untap or tap target permanent. So you use your Twiddle to untap the Time Vault to take an extra turn. Now, this is kind of a cute combo, right? But it gets really out of hand if you combine it with Howling Minds and Recalls. Recall, of course, is a way to get cards back from the yard. So you can use your Recalls to get the Twiddle back, to keep taking extra turn after extra turn. And with the Howling Minds, you make sure that you have the fuel in your hand that you need, right? You need a lot of card draws to find the pieces you need to like endlessly take turns. And when you endlessly take turns, you can basically win with a big fireball, right? We just see 1 fireball in the deck. It's as simple as that, but it's also very vulnerable, because usually with these decks, you need time to set up. And today he's playing against White Weenie, and White Weenie usually doesn't give you time to set up. So I mean, the goal here for Johan is going to be try to stay alive, try to find the right components that he needs to stay alive. And then, of course, once he's got his control extra turn like a vehicle going, then I'm sure he's going to win. But the trick is, how can you get there before you die, especially when your deck really revolves around the Howling Minds. Howling Minds in these type of decks are key, because they're going to help you to keep drawing cards, and you need a lot of card draw to find the components that you need. The problem is, when you're playing Howling Minds, you're also giving a lot of card draw to your opponent. And if your opponent is playing a small aggro weenie deck, like White Weenie, they're going to draw into a lot of more creatures, and they're just going to put a lot of pressure on the board. Therefore, I think that after the first game, he's probably going to board in the Sandstorms. I love the fact you're playing Sandstorms, by the way. So the Sandstorm, a card from Arabian Nights, deals 1 damage to each attacking creature. I mean, that card can be absolutely a powerhouse against this White Weenie opponent. He's probably also going to board in the Fox to buy himself some extra time. He can bring in the Glooms, of course, and I believe that Mirror Universe is going to go in as well. The cool thing about Mirror Universe, artifact for Legends for 6, that allows you to switch your life totals during your upkeep, by sacrificing it, by the way. The cool thing about this card is you can combine it with Sylvan. So with Sylvan, you're just going to pay a lot of life, draw a lot of cards. Your life total is really low, but that doesn't matter, because the next turn, you're going to switch it with Mirror Universe, and then all of a sudden, your opponent has your low life total, and you have your high life total of your opponent. So there are ways here for Johan to respond to his opponent, obviously. And I'm sure he's thought about, okay, what do I do when I run into these aggressive decks? But just looking at his main 60, I'm like, okay, this could be really rough, you know, in this match. Talking about that, let's take a look at the deck of his opponent, White Weenie. And here we see the White Weenie deck of Andreas. And unfortunately, again, we've got some glare on this deck picture, so it's hard to identify all the cards. Like if I start at the left top, well, at the top we see the sideboard, obviously. But then if we look at the playmat, the cards on the playmat, we see Savannah Lions, like a full playset. Then next to the Lions, I can't really see. So I'm not sure what those cards are. But under the Savannah Lions, we see more creatures, right? We see Thunderwolves, we see Banalish Hero, we see White Knights, we see also Clergy of the Holy Nimbus. I love the fact, I really do love the fact, Andreas, you're playing Clergy of the Holy Nimbus. And there's a little cute combo where you can combine Clergy of the Holy Nimbus with Armageddon. Because if you destroy all the lands, your opponent doesn't have the mana to pay for the Holy Nimbus. So it's going to regenerate. I really love that. You're also playing with King Suleiman, which is super cool. You're playing with a single Preacher. I'm really liking this deck. I think the other cards there with Glare on it right next to Crusades, by the way, or Mishra's Factories. Then we also see 4 Altered Swords to Plowshares there at the bottom. We see Army of Allah. I really like Army of Allah in combination with those first strike creatures, right? Like Thunderwolves and the White Knights. It's going to be really good with your Army of Allah. And then, of course, we see land text there. And I believe just 2 land texts on top of each other. Balance, of course, can't be missed in a deck like this. We also see 2 Jalum Tomes. So it's interesting, right? You don't see a lot of these decks playing with Jalum Tome. Jalum Tome can be great also in combination with land text. Because when you have an active land text, you're going to draw a lot of lands. You don't really want lands, right? Look at the mana base. Look at the casting cost, of the average card in this deck. You don't need a lot of lands. So you don't want the lands. You're going to dump the lands with your Jalum Tome. The interesting thing here as well is that we don't see any Serra Angels. Perhaps we have some Serras next to that Savannah Lions with all that glare that we can't see. But I don't think so, to be honest. So he's really low to the ground, very low curve, super aggressive. Just your classical White Weenie. And it's going to be really interesting to see what damage Andreas can do with this deck, right? Because he is playing against Twiddle Vault, which is a fully powered deck. But again, like I said when I talked about the Twiddle Vault player's deck, Twiddle Vault needs some time. These combo decks need time to set up. Furthermore, Twiddle Vault relies heavily on Howling Mines, and Howling Mines is something that Andreas loves to see because it allows him to draw more firepower to put more pressure on the board. So I wonder, I think before sideboarding, I really think that Andreas has a good chance of taking game 1. And once you've won game 1, who knows what's going to happen next? Talking about that, let's go to the game. This is, I believe, a round number 8 match at the Arvika Festival. Here we go. Game number 1 here between Johan and Andreas. And Johan here taking a mulligan, it seems. And we're in round number 8 of the Arvika Festival. Gonna take a double mulligan here. Wow. So it's gonna start with 5 in hand. So he's playing Twiddle Vault, by the way. And on the right we have Andreas, and he's playing White Weenie. Starting with a Savannah Lion, passing the turn to Johan. Let's see what he can do. Starting with a Volcanic Island and a Mox Pearl. Going to tap both Howling Mine, passing the turn. Of course, Howling Mine, very important when you play Twiddle Vault, but also kind of a big present here for Andreas. I mean, if you're playing White Weenie, this is a dream to come true, right? A turn 1 Howling Mine against you. You're like, okay, now I can start casting all my creatures. There's the attack. Johan dropping to 18. And I'm expecting to see another Planeswalker and more creatures on the board. Going to tap his Planes first. 1 white, another Savannah Lions. Ooh, there's a Strip Mine. Yeah, the Strip Mine is great here for Andreas. Just slowing Johan down, of course. Really needs to make sure that Johan cannot assemble the pieces that he needs to start getting those extra turns with his Twiddle and his Time Vault. There we see a Mana Vault being played out by Johan. Does he have a land? That's a big question. I guess he doesn't, just passing the turn. And this is really good news for Andreas. Can now swing in for 4 more damage. He can put Johan to 14. We could be in for a very short first game if Johan cannot find a way to stop the attacks. There we see another Plains here by Andreas. He's going to tap both. Are we going to see a White Knight? Nope, it's even better. A Crusade. Now he can swing in for 6. Look at that. Johan dropping here to 12. bad news for the Twiddle Vault player. He's on 12. If he doesn't do anything else, his life will be halved next turn. He's going to tap the Time Vault for a single Felwar Stone. Of course, has 1 mana floating still. But that's it though, passing the turn. It's looking very good for Andreas here in game number 1. Going to draw 2 more cards, can swing in for 6. There we see a Mishra's Factory. Going to attack with both lines here. Johan dropping to 6 measly life. And Andreas is not done yet. There's another line hitting the board. And we see a Banalish Hero as well, the 1/1 Bander. Now remember that 1/1 is now of course a 2/2 because of that Crusade. And Johan is really in trouble here. Also has to take a damage still exactly from the Vault, dropping to 5, finding a Mox Ruby. What can save him here? Maybe a draw 7. Gonna tap 3. Oh, there we go. Wheel of Fortune. But even with the wheel, right? What is he looking for? Maybe Black Lotus and then Time Walk? You know, take an extra turn? Something like that? It's going to be really tough for Johan. And here we see the Black Lotus and the Mox Sapphire and the Underground Sea. So he's got enough mana now to play and a Time Vault and a Twiddle to untap it and take an extra turn. Can he find it? That's the big question. He's on 5, so really needs that extra turn here. It's going to pass, though. That's it. Game number 1 going to the White Weenie player in very quick fashion. And now both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2 here is about to start. We see the White Weenie player drawing his first 7. Or perhaps his second. Maybe he took a mulligan. We'll find out soon enough. And I believe Johan kept all his cards this time. He's on the play, of course, a Twiddle Vault player on the left. So let's see if it is a mulligan or not. The first question is, does he want to keep? And then if he puts a card on the bottom, we'll know if it's a mulligan or not. And at least Johan is now on the play, which is a lot better for him. Yeah, we see Andreas here taking a mulligan, right? Starting with 6 instead of 7. And Johan can kick off this second game here in round number 8 of the Arvika Festival, starting with Underground Sea and a Mox Ruby. And there it is again, the Howling Mine. Now again, Howling Mine, of course, is crucial for Johan, but it's so dangerous to play against these White Weenie players. They've got, they can do so much with the extra card that you're giving them. And actually, a Soul Ring is not that bad for Johan. I mean, no creature, no pressure, for now at least, so that's going to give Johan some time. He finds a City of Brass himself. Passes the turn here back to Andreas. And Andreas again drawing 2 cards, of course. Ooh, there's a Divine Offering in there. Perhaps coming in from the sideboard. So could go Divine Offering on the Howling Mine. And that's exactly what he does. So goes Divine Offering on the Howling Mine. But there's a damage. Okay, there we see a Power Sink. So really wants to keep the Howling Mine around. So he's going to Power Sink away the Divine Offering. He's going to drop to 19, taking damage from his own City of Brass. Ooh, he had a mana floating though, so he can actually prevent it or not. Yeah, it's still destroyed. Of course, he had the mana floating, and then he had extra planes open, so he can pay the 2, so the Howling Mine is still destroyed. And Andreas' life is going to go up to 22 as well. Yeah, that was a little bit tricky. But yeah, he had, of course, that 1 mana still in the mana pool. And there, okay, there's the Time Vault. Okay, so if this Time Vault can stick, there could be a future for Johan here in the second game. Let's see if Andreas can find another Divine Offering or a Disenchant. There's a Mishra's Factory first. So it has a lot of mana, which is not really necessarily what you want if you're the White Weenie player. It's going to tap a white. There's a Banalish Hero. Passing the turn. Okay, so it's looking much better for Johan here in this second game. It's going to draw for turn. Problem, of course, is that the Howling Mine is gone. It's going to tap 3, going to go to 18. Okay, there's a wheel. That can help. So Wheel of Fortune. And, oh, there's a Disenchant. So did have a Disenchant in hand. Firing off the Disenchant now. So the Time Vault is gone. Both players can draw 7 new cards because of the wheel. And it's still Johan's turn, of course. Hasn't played out a land for turn yet, I believe. He's on 18 at the moment. Yep, there's a Tundra. What else can he do? Just passing the turn. And Johan can now, of course, swing in for 3 if he animates the factory, finds another plains. What is he going to do here? He's still on 22, but actually your life against a Twiddle Vault player doesn't mean anything. If you're on 1 or on 20, it's not a big difference. He's just going to attack with the Banalish Hero, so I wonder what he wants to do with all the mana. There's a White Knight. There's a pass. Little bit surprised here that we're not seeing him attack with the factory. Perhaps he wants to keep enough mana open to play a Disenchant or a Divine Offering. That would make sense, actually. And Johan, of course, dropped to 17 after that attack with the Banalish. There we see a Felwar Stone. And that's it, though. Yeah, I mean, Johan just not doing a lot with this deck. I guess he's really not finding the right cards. And his deck is looking so slow and clunky at the moment. And Andreas isn't drawing great, but he can still inflict some damage here. There's a Crusade. That helps. So that means the White Knight is a 3-3 and the Banalish Hero is now a 2-2. And he animates. Going to go in there. Hit him for 7. Yeah, and things could go very quickly from this point. And we see Johan is now on 10, I believe. Needs to have a big turn here. Can he find a Time Vault again? Can he find a Twiddle? Can he find a Howling Mine, a Recall, anything? Okay, he is looking at his graveyard, so I guess he's got a Recall. Could recall for the Time Vault here, or for the draw 7 perhaps. Time Vault and Howling Mine could be an option as well. The problem though is that you have to tap a lot of mana, you have to discard a lot of cards. Probably it's going to take another full turn before you can get all those cards back on the board. And then you're probably dead already. He's on 10. So next turn, if, Andreas doesn't do anything, just keeps the board as is, he can swing in for 7 again. He would drop to 3. So, I mean, he's got 2 turns max. So, really has to think about what he's going to do. He's already a game behind, of course. He's going to tap the Felwar, the Island, and the Dual Land. Are we going to see a Recall? There's the Recall. What card is he going to toss? And okay, so Sandstorm. Oh, I would have loved to see the Sandstorm. Of course, Sandstorm became useless the moment that the Crusade hit the board. It's going to get back the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, and that kind of shows the situation he's in. He's pretty desperate. So he's going to go for Wheel. I mean, I do love it. I love a Wheel. There we see a Disenchant in response on the Ruby. Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Why he earlier didn't attack with the factory. He wanted to keep Disenchant open, which makes perfect sense against the Twiddle Vault deck. And now both players are going to draw 7 new cards. And I have to say, it's still looking super good for the White Weenie player. There we see a Mox Sapphire by Johan. It's still his turn, of course. Can he find, for example, a Time Walk? That would be quite handy here. Has enough mana to play it out. Could go Time Walk, go to 9, take an extra turn. He is tapping 2, going to drop to 9. What are we going to see for 2? Is it going to be that Time Walk, or are we going to see something else? Sylvan Library. I mean, it's not bad. The problem is you're on 9. That's the problem. I really think that if he's lucky, he's going to get one more turn, and then it has to happen for Johan. Let's first see, of course, what Andreas can do. I believe I see a Dust to Duster in his hand as well, coming in from the sideboard. Yeah, Dust to Dust, of course, a great sideboard card if you're playing White Weenie. So he could attack here for 5. So he's not going to animate the factory. Going to attack for 5. Going to put Johan on 4. Are we going to see a Clergy of the Holy Nimbus? That would be really sweet. I hope we do. Another card that would be really good right now is just Armageddon. Just get on the board. There's another plane, so I guess no Armageddon. There we see a Banalish Hero. He's going to tap 3. Oh, there's the Dust to Dust we saw in the hand earlier. Wants to target the Sylvan but can't. You can only pick artifacts, but still, it's a good value. Flower Stone, Mox Sapphire gone. Oh, there we go. Armageddon. Yeah, Armageddon in combination with Dust to Dust is really sweet, right? You take away the mana rocks and then you destroy the lands. Yeah, and this is it. Armageddon his way to victory here in round number 8. He is passing the turn, but I mean, Johan needs more than a miracle at this point. It's highly unlikely that he gets to survive another turn. But it's a really nice demonstration of the synergy between Dust to Dust and Armageddon. Here we go. Johan shaking the hand of Andreas. Andreas winning here in round number 8 with his White Weenie deck. Congratulations. And I remember this deck, of course, is also underpowered because I don't believe there's a Mox Pearl in here or a Black Lotus. So an underpowered deck here winning again, which is quite nice. We've seen a lot of cool, powerful, underpowered decks doing their thing here at the Arvika Festival, which is quite nice. And for now, thank you very much for watching. And next episode, I'm going to bring you the semifinals of the Arvika Festival. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss a thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Okay, and if you've done that, please also take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. YouTube just loves that stuff. And talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of the show. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to see how you can support me as a content creator and how you can support the Timmy Talks channel. So if you're enjoying these episodes, please consider becoming a patron of the show. It already starts for just $1 a month. And I have to say that I'm super thankful to all my patrons. You guys are keeping the channel afloat, man. It's a reason that I'm still able to make these videos for you. So thank you so much, patrons. And if you become a patron, by the way, at the $2 or higher tier level, then your name will be mentioned in the end scroll at the end of every single video. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over, pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scout to the husband's son, he'll put him in the scout to the husband's son, he'll put him in the scout to the husband's son, he'll early in the morning. Way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning.
Igitus figitus somba kazee.